Hello and welcome to Hindsight Tonight. I'm Damian Muziani, and here is this week's theme. Enjoy. Leading off, senior Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas was released from a D.C. hospital late last week after battling a reported infection, but what he came home to may have made him even sicker. Newly released documents from the Justice Department revealed a bevy of stolen election accusations made by Thomas's wife, Virginia, to former Trump administration Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, demanding that the 2020 presidential election be overturned. Well, that's just awkward on many levels. First, that 30 years of sharing a breakfast table together did nothing to educate the spouse of a Supreme Court justice that a chief of staff has no power whatsoever to cancel an election. Meadows didn't even have credentials to enter the Capitol. I mean, neither did those 2,000 protesters on January 6th, but I digress. Ginny went just bananas. That's like calling the D.C. police demanding that they move Easter. Now there are several journalists demanding that Thomas be impeached, which is really unlikely, despite it clearing the way for a new Democrat-appointed judge to even out the Supreme mix a bit. Gee, if only Justice Thomas had properly courted his one-time assistant Anita Hill back in the 80s, instead of, sexually harassing her with talk of orgies, bestiality, and pubic hair on his coke. That's all true, by the way. Look it up. Maybe she could have been Mrs. Thomas, and then this current mess could have been avoided. And get this, Thomas barely passed his confirmation hearing in 1991 because Anita Hill was the lone accuser to address Congress. There were 4 other women in-house that day, ready to back up Hill's claims with their own tales of sexual harassment by Thomas, and surely derail his confirmation, but they were stopped from testifying. By whom? Oh, just the then Democratic Judiciary Chair, a man named Joe Biden. Mind blown. So if you're keeping score at home, our current president assured the passing vote on a Supreme Court justice whose wife then denied his own presidency. And that's how you say thank you in Washington, D.C. Please say hello to master criminal Nick Roski. He hatched a secret plan to cleverly assassinate Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh inside his own home in Maryland. Shocking, since we can't think of anyone with an axe to grind against Justice Kavanaugh. Nope. Roski already knew where Kavanaugh's house was because he saw it on the media coverage of Roe v. Wade protesters marching past it last month. Since then, lawmakers have beefed up security in all justice residences. So how could Roski secretly and discreetly find a way to sneak into Kavanaugh's house? He took a taxi cab there. Yep, dropped him off right out front. When Roski exited the cab, he was immediately received by 25 friendly U.S. Marshals, all armed to the teeth. Luckily, nobody's suspicion was aroused because Roski was cleverly incognito, dressed like any young dad on a suburban Maryland street, wearing a black shirt, black pants, suitcase, backpack, Glock 17, tactical knife, pepper spray, hammer, screwdriver, crowbar, zip ties, and duct tape. As one does. He was, of course, arrested and charged with attempted murder. Let that be a lesson to you would-be vigilantes. Always bring a letter of authority with you to gain entrance to your victim's home. Supreme Court Marshal Gail Curley finished her 8-month investigation to uncover just who leaked a top-secret court opinion to reporters at Politico.com, which foretold the revision of Roe v. Wade months later. And the leak is... we still don't know. Your tax dollars at work there. 82 employees and 9 judges know absolutely nothing. I guess justice really is blind. I suppose the document just leaked itself? Sounds plausible. I mean, we've seen documents leaking themselves all over Delaware and Florida for the last few months. Maybe they're typed up on some kind of AI paper bot that thinks for itself. I can see it now. Justice Samuel Alito typed up the opinion, told the paper bot to file itself in the political folder, and the poor document thought he said Politico reporter. And the next thing you know, thousands of pro-abortion supporters and activists show up to protest outside the Supreme Court steps, and the rest, as they say, is revisionist history. If a paper can leak itself, who knows? Maybe a gun can really fire itself too. And that's your news. Have a great week. Don't forget to like us and subscribe, and I'll see you next week with Fresh Hindsight.